shot the yellow.
Entrepreneurship, it's all game. The Big Potato Podcast is yours to claim. From startups to scaling up, we cover it all. So don't mess up. Monday nights, don't miss the show with Kendall and Stuart. Your time to grow, listen up. Take notes and learn. The Big Potato Podcast, next gen's turn. It's next gen's turn. Next gen's turn.
Welcome back to the Big Potato Podcast. Yep, this is where we empower entrepreneurs for today's business landscape. Remember, it's light-hearted discussion delivering strategic business insights. We've touched so many industries. Season 2, episode number 3. Stuart and Kendall, the Big Potato Podcast team, we are here. And we want to thank you guys so much as well for being here with us, following us at the Big Potato Podcast on all the social media platforms, and of course, listening once, twice, 3 times, so many times to all the episodes on YouTube and Spotify. Remember just to subscribe to the Big Potato Podcast so you don't miss anything at all. Stuart, what's up, buddy?
I am great. What man used to say? Good as what?
Good as gold, my friend.
Good as gold. Good as gold. Had a birthday these last couple of days, so I'm still celebrating. A lot of bacchanal going on in Trinidad with the steel pan. A lot of progress. I've seen a lot of momentous things occurring with the steel pan, so it's a good time to be alive in Trinidad. It's a good time to be supporting your culture and promoting what we stand for. So it's just been one win after the next one. So we're looking for next winner tonight.
Momentous stuff, Stuart.
Momentous.
And happy belated to you. Happy belated birthday. Man. We were actually supposed to record on your birth night. Yes. But as luck would have it, we're doing it at an even better time now. Our guest is ready. He's here. I'm going to introduce him in a bit because this is a special guest tonight. We're jumping into a totally different direction from where we've gone before. And this is to show you that we are really trying to empower Gen Z, empower all the ambitious young people out here who are interested in pursuing their own careers in different fields and different paths. Stuart?
Well, as you said, I really want people to understand what we're doing here. This is season 2,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't repeated an industry yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a show. This next generation, again, is not just doctors, lawyers, engineers. The world is yours. Anything you see that you want to achieve, go after it. Don't let people tell you, nah, we don't do that in Trinidad. People doing it in Trinidad. Trinidadians doing it internationally. Why can't you?
Why can't you? And on that note, it's a great time to bring our guest in tonight. He's a renowned, and I taken this part in particular from his bio on his website, a New York City transplant by way of Jamaican and Martinican parents, birthed and bred, as Stuart said, in Trinidad and Tobago. A real pan-Caribbean, or as we say in the islands, a kalaloo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a real mix-up, a blended stew of mixed ingredients. He's an actor, filmmaker, screenwriter, producer, you name it. He honed his craft. If you're in this industry and this field, you'll know, at Yale School of Drama, where he attained a Master of Fine Arts in acting. He has led roles in Shakespeare's Pericles and appeared in numerous other theatrical productions internationally. I mean, he's been on the circuit and your screens because he actually starred in the Netflix series Jessica Jones, the Marvel series. So he's passionate about storytelling. He's passionate about telling ancient stories in new ways and telling urgently topical ones, which is a huge trend right now as well in the industry. He's an advocate for youth culture and creativity. Stuart, you see this part here? This is the part that really tell me this is the man we're talking to. He appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 1999, where he was voted Oprah's sexiest Caribbean man alive, you know.
Well, I couldn't make it to that episode. I couldn't make it to that episode. So I said, Paul, handle this scene for me. And he did a good job.
So without further ado, let me welcome humbly, respectfully, and joyfully to the Big Potato Podcast, Mr. Paul Pryce. Paul, how are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for the invitation, guys. Appreciate that.
My brother Paul.
Hey, what happening?
I good. There was something else looking at on their bio that I had to ask you. I saw you had basketball, football. So, I had to ask you, where this basketball thing come from? I know you as the guy would clothesline anybody trying to get past you on the court. You're a good defender. More of a wrestler than a basketballer.
Remember the FDYL? Remember that days?
The Fortune Backyard League.
Yeah.
Many fellas fell victim on that court.
Good days,
Good days. Good to have you, my brother.
Yeah, good to be here, man. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, and I mean, you're hearing the memories being shared, reminiscing, and that's to tell you, we have strong relationships. So when we bring it real. So we're going to get inside with Paul in a short. But we want to, of course, kick off this episode as we usually do with our first segment. It's called What Caught Our Eye. And you already know what it is. Quick, key entrepreneurial insights on stories of significance. So Stuart, what caught your eye this week?
Well, what caught my eye this week was a Saudipedia article, not Wikipedia. A Saudipedia article. Now, this article was really discussing the film sector development strategy for Saudi Arabia. It really described a plan to include a set of initiatives and programs to develop Saudi Arabia's film sector, making it more productive and competitive. The thing that really, drew my attention was the 6 pillars of the strategy. 1, supporting local film production. 2, enhancing domestic and international demand for the Saudi films. 3, attracting global productions to Saudi Arabia. 4, creating a regulated environment to help the sector develop. 5, ensuring access to talent. And 6, providing the necessary facilities and services for the film sector at a competitive cost. So they have a whole strategy to develop their film sector. So when I look at what they're doing and what other markets doing, and I look at what we're doing at home, it could be slightly depressing. So I really wanted to bring that to Paul and see what his thoughts would be on these pillars that I just outlined, those 6 pillars. If he thinks that is something we could bring into our market, and really build an industry, Trinidad, based on something similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, what were the first 2 again?
The first one was supporting local film production. The second one was enhancing domestic and international demand for their films.
Right. I was just having a conversation with an entrepreneur last night, actually. And he's an investor. He has businesses, data. He's involved in data collection, data analysis, and that's his forte.
Right.
And so we were talking a lot about that, and he was involved in a how you call it, like a fair for entrepreneurs to meet investors and whatnot, local entrepreneurs. They brought in investors that were keen and interested in local businesses and in Trinidad and what Trinidad had to offer.
Okay.
And people were not engaging with the investors. People didn't go and talk to them. The organizers had to kind of almost like pulling teeth a little bit, trying to get people to go and introduce them and make the connections. But people didn't have that confidence to go out there and be seen and to be heard and to express themselves, express their ideas, make the relationships, And then these were like, and these are business people in, back home. And that was his observation. And then he was at another event and he was struck, was a documentary was being played, and he was struck. It was about kids and in depressed areas and in Trinidad and whatnot. And they were talking about what he heard a lot was the word ugly. That came up a lot, how the kids were talking about each other, you're ugly and this and that. And so we were talking about that. And he's like, I was asking him, why do you feel like people, entrepreneurs, did not feel like to engage, or why do you feel like there's a certain stagnation in terms of business and whatnot? It's like, one of the things we were talking about is that sense of identity and confidence in who we are as a people, who we are as individuals, and feeling that we have the confidence to do it and to compete at the highest level internationally, globally. And that is an issue. That's an issue. So when I hear that, and the first two pillars are about our content and investing in our own stories and investing in and getting people to consume our material, it begs the question of, do we value ourselves and our stories and where we fit in the world landscape because we are consumers, right? We import a lot of our food. We consume American television and it's their culture, right? It's their lifestyle, it's their world. I mean, I'm living in it. But there's an investment in that. And so the Saudis obviously see that their culture and their identity has value. So I don't know where we are. I don't know, we have things to attract foreign productions in Trinidad, but it's hard. There isn't that same investment readily available for our local storytellers and filmmakers, theater practitioners, artists, and all that, who are there, who are now telling our stories, right? And will give us the confidence and so if an entrepreneur grows up seeing themselves as investment bankers in films and whatnot, then it becomes it's obviously something that's attainable, tangible, because you're seeing it performed for you, right? You can emulate it. So it's all tied.
I agree fully, because it's like, I'll go back to the basketball. How many people we know from Trinidad in the NBA? So, it won't really be an aspiration. Or even in Champions League football, we have Levi Garcia, but it's not something the average person may think is attainable, at least to the highest level. So again, if it is, we see more people engaging in it, being successful in it, the younger generation will have those imprints that, hey, that this fella, like for instance, like us, we could say, that Dwight York, he used to play for Man U, and I win Champions League, he win treble. So you could see there's a possibility I might break through. But on the whole, people already see that positive outcome for them to follow. So I agree 100% with you.
Yeah, I believe you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, even when you check out the mandate for like Film TT and so on, some of these aspects are there. Some of these pillars are included. But again, that's on a report or maybe on a plan, a strategic plan also. But in reality, in practicality, and we understand the challenges with funding and investment and so on. And I guess that is the point that Paul is also alluding to, we need to see a lot more of it happening, and being invested in really telling our stories. Mm-hmm. So, when you have authors like Stuart Fortuné in the Orange Economy, and you have people like our good friend Barry Finbar doing good things like Panas, You tend to see a lot more of our cultural aspects really being put out there in the manner and the way it should be, and really telling a lot of our history and a lot of our story. So we encourage entrepreneurs to get involved.
Well, I just want to touch on that. Yesterday, I went to see Panas from Barry Finbar and his nephew, Adam Finbar. And I left there feeling so proud to see the story of Pan so well produced. Surround sound. I mean, there was nothing lacking in the production. And it tells the story of Trinidad, it tells the story of us. And I was so proud of it. So actually, they said it will be available on Amazon Prime from November. So it's all good. Things moving in a direction.
Big up Barry, man.
Big up Barry.
So let me tell you guys what caught my eye this week. And from the last episode, you realize I'm probably going to do this for the next episode as well. So I'm telling you guys, I'm going to check in on the trends that people said at the beginning of the year are going to be hot in XYZ industry. So the last episode, we dealt with some CX and customer experience trends. In this one, we're going to deal with some filmmaking trends. So the article is actually the future of the filmmaking trends, 5 filmmaking trends actually to watch out for in 2024. All right, and it was on raindance.org in January. And as I said, we want to check in a little past mid-year and see if they were spot on with these trends or not. So the first trend, I think it was the rise of virtual reality, VR, in film production. And of course, it's creating more immersive experiences and becoming more accessible with all the different hardware and software that are coming out right now. It's a lot easier for filmmakers to include some of this in their productions if they want to, depending, I guess, on what type of film and what type of story they are creating. So that's one, which we definitely are seeing. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing the editing process, enabling filmmakers to streamline workflows and achieve stunning visual effects with ease. All right, so we've seen a lot more of that for the movie buffs out there, even if you're not a filmmaker or an actor or producer, but you just love movies, you love film. I'm sure you're seeing where the technology really is driving a lot of the industry forward. And we'll talk a lot more about the impact of AI a little later on. The next trend, according to this article, was about live streaming and interactive experiences. And I found this one to be very interesting, right? Because they were talking about platforms, obviously like Twitch, you have YouTube Live, and there are more specific ones as well that filmmakers can now connect with their audience in real time, right? Even like launching a movie, like you just mentioned, Panas and so on. So people doing a lot of live streaming while they're launching, they're watching it with their audience, they're taking feedback, all these sort of things. So it's creating a lot of interaction and a lot of feedback that could happen on spot that could really help build the future for that filmmaker or even the entire industry. And they're also allowing you to choose your own adventure right now, in terms of films really being personalized, films really being a very unique experience for the individual. That's the level of technology that we are getting to, that you could have a movie that you want to watch, Stuart, in terms of all the elements and all the aspects. And Paul will tell us a lot more about that soon. Personalized and immersive storytelling. And the last trend that they were talking about is really the sustainability taking center stage. Just like in almost every other industry, there is this move towards more environmentally friendly consciousness and focus. And filmmakers are adopting eco-friendly practices, I guess, on set and so on. And they're also incorporating sustainability in their stories as well. Now, from my point of view, I think I'm seeing the impact of all these trends so far for this year. But I mean, from someone who is in the industry and really behind the scenes, which of these trends, Paul, you think is really leading the way right now?
Well, I mean, there's a cataclysmic shift happening in the industry in the United States. I mean, with the new, there's a double strike. I mean, coming out of COVID, there were two strikes. There was the writer strike, and then the actor strike, the longest strike by the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, in like I can't even remember how many years, but it was a massive one, and production has not come back to where it was. Now, all these streamers, the Netflix, Amazon, they were in a growth phase where they were like spending tons of money on content, and it was a kind of arms race to like do all these massive series, all these films, which was great for the audience. But now they've come to a place where they need to make money. So a lot of these budgets have been cut. As you see on Netflix now, there's ad, right? You could get a package with ads now and whatnot, because they're trying to rein in the cost, and they're trying to get revenue in. So with the strikes, with the changing of the model, what you're seeing now is, and then you mentioned VR and AI. All of that was a major sticking point with the actors in particular, also with the writers to a lesser extent, or as equally large extent, because it affected how you could just type in a concept for a TV and a show, and then a whole script could get printed out for you.
Yep.
Now the quality of that wasn't so great, they were saying, but as we know with technology, that stuff is going to get better and better with time. The same thing with AI and your own digital imprint. So there's a lot of concern in the business about that, about where that technology is going, and so production has not ramped up to where it's been, and I mean, it's still, the chips haven't yet fallen and the shoe hasn't dropped yet to see where things are going, but a lot of people haven't been back to work, and it's been a trickling of new production. So we'll see. I mean, I think the opportunity in all of that is, I think, is for more localized stories, independent cinema. I think now what we do know with the internet and a sort of democratization of storytelling, like now we're looking at movies from Korea, from Japan, from Africa, from parts of Europe that we weren't necessarily having access before. It was just North American films, maybe some European, but we're getting, things are subtitled, and we're consuming so many different, more diverse sort of content. And I think there's the opportunity now, because you can make films a lot cheaper, that there is an opportunity to have really robust niche audiences for film. And now we see, there are a lot of films coming out of Africa on Netflix that are very appealing to a West Indian audience that we consume. Certainly films from India as well, like has always been, we found there was an appetite for that in certainly Trinidad, Guyana, and parts of the Caribbean. And I think vice versa as well. And I think the idea is to think that the material that we make is of a global quality, because I mean, the talent is certainly there in Trinidad. Trinidad is definitely not a place short on talent. The talent is there to create robust film product and content that can travel and that can be exported, that showcases who we are and our culture, and opens up other avenues for other industries. A way to really know people and to break the ice is through culture, right? Music,
Correct.
food, travel, films. All of those things are ways for us to see the world and to see, oh wow, we're actually more similar than we are different. And maybe I can go over there and I can make relationships over there. It's not as fun and as strange as I initially thought, right? If we start seeing our films and our music and our food. So I think, in terms of the arts, it's important to see it not just, as culture for us or whatever, but to see it as a real avenue to create opportunities for so many other sectors, and I think if you talk to any diplomat, they would say that an icebreaker or a way to forge relationships between countries is through culture. That's why the French, the English, the Americans, the Italians, they invest so much in their films, because that's how we get to know about the beauty of Italy and France, and you know what I mean? That's how we know France is so pretty and so beautiful, and we want to go to the vineyards, and we want to have, we want to go to Florence and wherever else in the world, because we've seen it on TV or we've seen their movies, and we and they make us fall in love with their culture, and our culture is second to none. So, but that does take an investment. That takes a long-sighted view of things. That takes a consistent view, and to see that, I think I don't know, that's part of our history. It's very hard to see things long term. Sometimes things are very short term. I need to see a result right away, and if I don't see a positive result, well, that ain't working.
Yep.
You gotta do something else. Whereas the gains are down the line. It's not in the first, second, third, fourth film. It might be in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th film that we really see the gains of the first 10. But and then when that 10th film hits, everybody wants to see, oh, well, what else have you been doing?
What's
and
coming
then all
next?
does become, people rediscover the legacy of work.
But I just want to touch on a couple of things you said, because I know a lot of this we will discuss later on in the interview. But going back to the article I mentioned with Saudi, as you said, culture, I think what Saudi Arabia is doing as well is using this to push their culture globally. Just like what they're doing with the sports, all the football, the golf, they're trying to really rebrand themselves. So as I said, culture, film, entertainment on the whole. That's a brilliant way to spread their culture. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. And then another thing I want to touch on is the decline of the major releases, as I said, is noticeable. I like to sit down in the evening after hard day work and just finish the day with a movie. And it's getting very difficult to find a movie to look at, to be honest. But what I've noticed is that there's a decline in the major studio releases, but there's an increase in independent releases. And then there's a decline in North American studio releases, but there's an increase in, you could say, developing market releases. The Korea, Nigeria, Brazil, Argentina, as opposed to the traditional Hollywood. So there's a lot of nuances to observe. But again, I will leave the rest of it for the rest of the interview, because I know a lot of this we will discuss.
I mean, I think when you look at Saudi Arabia is notoriously known for, like, Middle East. Is, the idea of out there is it's a closed society. Women can't drive. You can't see their face. It's like all these antiquated ideas of the Middle East, right? They at war. All these ideas that people have about that part of the world, their perception is Muslims, so they're very conservative. So they understand that that's not who they are. At least it's not all of who they are, and they have so much more to offer. Exactly. And so they understand, like you said, they want to rebrand. They want to let the world know that they're open for business. They have the World Cup. Qatar had the World Cup. They want to do movies. They want to let the world know that they are the new playground for the world. No longer not Vegas, the New York or Paris or London, but we want to come to Saudi. I mean, I was talking to a guy and a filmmaker here who I was in talks with for a project. and he does a lot of work in Saudi Arabia, and he goes there a lot to shoot films.
Right.
And they understand that. And I mean, if you look at all of what the Middle East is doing, they're diversifying their economies, going away from petrochemicals, and they're investing heavily in sports, in professional sports. They're bringing in all the big caliber players to play in their leagues, paying them $1 billion and whatever else, because right. So they're trying to, they understand sports, entertainment, live sports, all of that is boxing, all of that is a way to drive eyeballs and to drive attention and to get tourism going, so, and it's happening all through those Qatar, what's the name, Saudi, UAE, all these places. So yeah, and the other point you brought up about the releases, I mean, yeah, those movies not making money. That's basically what it is.
Exactly.
They're spending tons of money on these releases, and they're just not making the money back like they used to. So you need now, before Will Smith could open a movie, now you need a whole side of stars to open a film.
The Expendables.
Yeah, you just need more than one. They just had Ryan, what's his name? Gosling and Emily Blunt. They did a Fall Guy, that bombed.
Yes.
And they just came out of Barbie and Oppenheimer. They did that bombed. They had another movie before that bombed. And it was a major brand at that. It was what was the one that came out? It was another big film that came out. I don't know what Bad Boys did. I don't know how well that did. I think people now are more discerning. There are more options. Video games are a huge thing. People have, I mean, tell me the last time you really sit down and watch a movie, or you sit down and watch a set of YouTube shorts.
Nah,
YouTube is a real thing.
It's a real thing, but it's depending on the time of the day. So for me, to relax, I would like to find a nice movie I could look at and try to fall asleep to. But as I said just now, the Oppenheimer and Barbie, if it wasn't for Barbieheimer, where would Hollywood be? Last year, I think that was the only thing that really made money.
Yeah, I mean it's a real thing. I mean, you're talking about yourself, but remember, we're what, Gen X.
Yes,
we're the old people now. But if you're looking at Gen Y, Alpha, Gen Z, these people, they're not going to no movies. They're watching stuff on their phone.
On demand.
They're the ones. They're on TikTok. They're on YouTube. They're on Instagram. They're on Reels and stuff. That's their entertainment.
Yep.
So the reality is, everybody has a channel now.
Yep.
And people are looking at podcasts like yourself. Like, I look at tons of podcasts with basketball players or whatever. I look at podcasts and whatever else. So I can't tell you, and I'm in the business, and I am not looking at a TV series.
Wow.
And I'm in the business. Like, do I have the time to sit down and invest in a TV series? I might watch 1 or 2 episodes and then I'm checking something else, because there's a lot of choice.
Yes.
And that's the reality. It's a very fragmented market right now.
But that's one of the challenges with the over-the-top services like Netflix and so, that you might spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes scrolling, trying to find what you want to watch.
Right, exactly. Yep.
So we'll wrap up this segment here, and we'll jump into the rest of the interview, where we'll discuss your entrepreneurial, or I should say your acting journey, your journey to where you've become, and we take a short break.
Whether you're seeking guidance or solutions for your business, we're here to help. Contact us via IBOMAQ868@gmail.com. That's IBOMAQ 868@gmail.com, and let's discuss how we can collaborate for your success. Thank you so much, IBOMAQ, for powering that segment. Welcome back, you guys, to the Big Potato Podcast. And I'm telling you, we're having an excellent discussion tonight. We're talking film, we're talking acting, we're talking the creative industries, the orange economy, whatever you want to call it. But it's happening here tonight on the Big Potato Podcast with our special guest, Mr. Paul Pryce, a real veteran actor out there, filmmaker, screenwriter, theatrical, you call it, master. Yeah, he's led some roles there as well in terms of Shakespeare and so on. And I mean, Paul, this is the part of the discussion that we want to get to know Paul a little more. I mean, as you mentioned before, there are a lot of different content that is just going around the internet and everywhere right now. But it's important that we reel it back in and we say, you know, these are the people that come from our great land of Trinidad and Tobago and go off to do really great things. So tell us a little bit about how you got started to be an actor, to get to Broadway, to get to the screens, the big screens, as they say. Where did it all start? And did you see this being your life and your career?
Well, no, I mean, I started out in business, actually. I mean, that's what I studied. And then I worked in advertising for a while. And then I worked in newspaper circulation. I was in the CCN group, working at the Express. Mm-hmm. Shout out to the Express. And then, I came to New York like around when I was 2003 or 2003 or so. And then I was doing modeling and fashion at the time. And then I took a class in acting and then fell in love with it. And then I went back to Trinidad, worked for a year, saved up, and then I moved to New York to pursue it professionally. And I came to New York City and went to a studio called HB Studio where I studied, learned acting and did a lot of classes. It was a fantastic time. And then went to graduate school at Yale for 3 years. And then after that came out and started producing plays in Trinidad. We had a company that produced theater in Trinidad. And then I was also acting in the States and auditioning and whatnot. So it kind of that's how my kind of journey went, and then started writing and producing short films in the States, in Trinidad. We did some work in Korea, and in Trinidad when we were doing the plays, we also did workshop with kids and underserved kids. And Stuart, you did something with us too with the music and all of that. Remember you
with British Petroleum.
You did a workshop for us with Calypso when we did rum and Coca-Cola.
Yes, you recorded that in my studio.
For us.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's been and I've started teaching, and I teach at in an MFA program. I'm also a director of a conservatory program, and and I started a school in South Korea as well, my wife. So
wow,
yeah, it's been a very sort of a lot's happening, a lot of stuff, So yeah,
clearly a lot of stuff is happening, and I mean along that journey, especially as you mentioned, you started off as a business manager, you started off in business, in corporate, and then you switched gears, which I would say is totally under direction, to go into acting and to go into a more creative industry. What was that transition like? I mean, for our audience's benefit, what was that transition like? We always ask people about that eureka moment that you tell yourself, boy, this is not for me anymore. No? Time to take the deep dive, as we say, Stuart, the leap of faith, and really try to do something different, especially in another industry. What was that like for you, Paul?
I mean, it was something that I always wanted to do. I've always been creative. I mean, I was in marketing, right? So in terms of management and business, marketing tends to have a more creative sort of, kind of slant to it. But I've always been also a producer because I used to throw parties and events. We had a company that did a lot of event management and events, parties, and stuff like that. So it's always been a bit of producerial side and a creative side. So the producerial is kind of the business side, the creative side. So I've always sort of managed those two. So it was an adventure, and it was something I felt like if I wanted to do, that was the time to do it. And when you're young, you just kind of you just do it. You kind of do it without any sort of it's an adventure in a way, and it's and you're young and you're excited and you just go for it, and I think at the time I just was very excited by the prospect of it. And it's afforded me a very sort of adventurous experience in many ways, in good and bad. It's not all like, it was just a great adventure, but there's a lot of challenges that come with it, and but also a lot of satisfying experiences as well. So it comes with everything. It comes with it comes with the rewards, but it also comes with the sacrifices along with it. So you're always balancing the two. You're always balancing the two and making your way, basically.
Yeah, actually, Paul was the first person I knew to really take this acting thing serious. I mean, everyone, when we look back at all of our friends, we all had some corporate job, and there's Paul going off to follow his dreams.
Exciting, right?
It was different. To be honest, I mean, again, at that age, you're not thinking how we thinking now. It's like, this man taking a risk here, boy.
Why he just go come and work in the bank, right?
And I never even saw it like that. I never really even, I don't know, I just never saw it that way. I was just like, I'm just going to do this.
But that is it. Yeah,
and I think you kind of, and I think as any entrepreneur, you kind of have this kind of blind belief, and you really have to, to many, you might look crazy in a sense, because you're seeing something that other people can't see.
Exactly.
And I think the challenge is to hold on to that vision, and that vision could change. Obviously, as you grow older, you want different things and things change. But it's really, you're seeing something for yourself that other people can't see, and I think I'm blessed to have had a mother who was very encouraging and never sort of put any doubt, or I didn't have to fight against that. And I know other people have that challenge. The people closest to them are some of their biggest obstacles, that make it harder to make a bold choice.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I didn't have that challenge.
Now, moms is the greatest.
Yeah.
But when I said that, Paul was going off to do the acting, I was like, okay, that's different. But that whole perception changed when he did Smile Orange, right?
Right.
He did Smile Orange in Little Carib Theatre.
Right.
And I was like, wow,
Right.
this man doing this for real, boy. Because everything was on point. Multimedia was incorporated. It had a great turnout. The script was on point. So I was like, okay, Paul followed his dreams, and this thing like it going on to work out for him. So all the best. And everything has just been blooming for you.
Yeah. I mean, I want to, we did a few productions in Trinidad, and that's something I want to come back to. And we're planning to do a film. So it's and we want to incorporate some of those principles that we did in theater, and want to bring back a lot of the theater elements that we did, because at one point I started just focusing on my own professional career. So I had to kind of focus the attention. But now that I've been around and kind of established a little bit more, I want to go back and do more Caribbean work, because I think we need to see that. We need to see our work, our stories being depicted. We don't really, other than it's like a laugh fest, we go down and laugh in, Central Bank, which is fine, which is great, which I love. But I think we could also incorporate, in addition to that, some of our classic plays, right, and theater, and new plays and new works as well, that that are comedic too, but also dramatic and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I mean, when you look at there's this report, the Broadway report what's the name of it? It gives the report on all the Broadway statistics.
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
Can't remember the name right now, but like per week, Broadway will have like 25, 26 plays running.
Right. Yeah. And then you have off-Broadway going on.
Off-Broadway as well.
I mean, the theater in America is a huge business, but it's also risky. The thing in America is that a lot of their work, not all, I mean, there's a whole non-profit theater side to things, and they have residencies and whatnot, but a lot of it is very commercial, right? Broadway is a commercial venture. They have investors, they are investors, and, so it's not just people put money with the mindset to get, but, it's high risk, and the vast majority of those plays may not make money, especially if it's a musical. But that's why there's a lot of stars in these Broadway shows, because it drives the audience. So the investors can make their money back, and it's a limited engagement. So, I have a friend that's at Lincoln Center in a play with Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
At Lincoln Center. So that's going to be a big ticket. People are going to come, want to see Robert Downey Jr. and whatnot. So that will sell. So they're constantly managing the commerce with the art. That's always the balance, which as it should be. And I think
you have to make money.
There's a place for that,
of course,
as well as art for the cultural significance and the other values too. But if you want to be serious about it, that's real. It has to generate money and profits so that it could be sustainable on some level. So that's real.
No, Paul, in terms of some of what you said there, the money side of it, which of course is hugely important, because the industry cannot thrive, the business cannot thrive, the actor cannot thrive if they're not making money. And then the creative side, where, especially coming from the Caribbean, you have such a diverse and rich heritage and culture, and such a rich blend, just like we discussed earlier. How do you really transcend that as a young actor or a young person thinking about getting into film, even if it's not acting? And as you were alluding to earlier, really telling a lot of our stories and using a lot of our culture to get out there. How do you see that?
Well, that's a bit of a challenge. I mean, like someone in Trinidad, if they were getting started.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you want and where you what you want to say, like what you want to do, like where you want to go. I mean, I think defining your goals are very important. I mean, I would say to start where you're at, whether you write your own show or, you work with your friends and colleagues. I think mentorship is also important, like learning your craft, going to school, learning your craft, reading other plays and other playwrights and what has been done. I think that's important. Really knowing the history, knowing what good work looks like, and then making work, even if it's short and small, and just making stuff. I think what's good now is that we have social media, and we could get our work out there, we could get our work seen and on some level. But then I think it's important to be, I was just talking to a friend about this recently, to be strategic too.
Of course.
How do you, what value do you bring? How do you partner with the right people who could share resources and ideas? A writer, you're an actor, partner with a good writer or a filmmaker to do things together. Form a community, be a part of a community, get the right training and know what good looks like, because you're competing globally. So your stuff has to be really good. I think traveling is important as best as you can. Like if you could afford, the reality is getting a visa is a real thing for a lot of Trinidadians, right?
Yep.
How do we even leave the island? Which is crazy to me, but but that's a real obstacle of immigration,
Yeah.
right? So, but can you travel, even if it's to up the islands, and see work that's being done in other countries? YouTube is good with that, right? Online, you could see, and not just Brad Pitt and Hollywood stuff, talking about real work outside of the commercial, oftentimes not always the best quality stuff that we get readily accessible, but really seeing what artists do and what they're making and what they're saying with their work, and really having something to say with their work. I think if we can start doing that, and there are a lot of really good artists in Trinidad,
Definitely.
musicians and filmmakers and mass men, awesome people. And I think if you start finding those communities, that's a good place to start. And then, because a lot of times what happens is people feel like, I need to leave Trinidad and I need to come to America. And I thought that on some level too, like America is where it's at, and I need to come here to get the real deal. But ironically, what are you bringing to offer? Like, the thing that has brought me the most success is my Trinidad and my Caribbean-ness, and what I have to offer that's different and unique to me. And I think the more we could really see the value that we have there and hone that, that's the thing that will set us apart. That's the thing that will actually bring you all over the world, Bong Joon-ho said this really interesting. He's a director out of South Korea. He's like, a lot of American movies is really local movies.
Wow.
They're local films.
They are.
And it's true.
Yeah, they are.
It is true.
Scorsese is doing a local movie about, and it's very local. It's about Italians in Little Italy in New York City. Like, that's like a very specific, hyper niche subculture.
That's it.
Of America. It's a local movie.
But I guess, as you said, it's how it's promoted, how it's marketed, where it's available, because
Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
That's classic. That's a local movie. But we don't see it like that. We see it was Scorsese coming, whatever. But when you really think about it, that's where a lot of his, he's done other things, of course, but his early films were Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas. It's all about Italians and a certain type of Italian too, right? In crime, and because that's tied to who he is and his legacy and his history, the people in his community. So I say all of that to say that there's value in the work that we do too, and who we are as a people. And I think the more we can invest in that, the more success we'll have.
Well, what I want to agree with, because it said something there about you thought at the time you had to go to America to be in the industry.
Land of opportunity,
But looking back, you can't really say you were wrong. At the time, things have changed since then. But at the time,
that's true.
You had to be.
That's very true.
You had to be there. You had to be in the conversation. But another thing is, I always mention you on this podcast. At least twice I mention you, not by name, but I always say, I have a friend. He teaches dialects. He teaches people how to speak Trini for plays and speak Caribbean. But yet we here in Trinidad trying to speak the Queen's language. And we need to take more pride in what we own, our thing. And express it, because, as I said, that is the differentiator when you go outside there. You can't go outside there and try to out-American an American.
Very true.
So you have to find what is your lane and follow that lane. Another thing you said just now there, just to touch on it quickly, with Robert Downey Jr. doing the play. My question is, I was thinking about this, with all the AI taking all these jobs, do you think that more actors will resort to real life plays on stage theater because they may not have as many roles for them, for real actors? When you have the Unreal Engine and you have all these meta-humans and you have all these 3D animated characters and scenes, and so. Do you think more actors will transition into the stage?
Well, I mean, you're seeing it already this season. I mean, because there's been such a slowdown in Hollywood because of the strikes and lower budgets and the networks kind of canceling the big slates or even the number of episodes that they used to have. You have actors who are, and big time actors who have now time. Like before, Robert Downey Jr. is not coming to New York to do a play. Like that was unheard of because his schedule is booked out for the next 5 years.
Iron Man,
we talking about it.
Iron Man, they have the Avengers, he's doing this other movie and whatever, right? So it's not a play, he's gonna come and rehearse for 3 months, for 2 months and beyond, but now there are gaps, obviously, because production has been postponed and whatnot. So now you're seeing really big names. Like I just saw Rachel McAdams in Mary Jane, that was on Broadway, which is a play that we just got the rights for, and I'll be directing in South Korea at the end of the year.
What?
So, yeah, we'll be directing that over there. We're producing that in South Korea. So you had Rachel McAdams doing that on Broadway. We had this guy Jeremy Strong, that's on Succession, who did he was doing Enemy of the People on Broadway again at Circle in the Square. So and there's tons of others. Denzel is there with Jake Gyllenhaal. He's coming to do Othello. I just auditioned to understudy Denzel actually last week.
Okay.
So there is, there are all these stars coming to Broadway to do their to do shows, and I think what is happening now is that, people want to work.
Yeah.
People want to work. People want to work, and people are going to find ways to work. And okay, if I can't make $10 million for this film, but I have time, I still want to work, so I'll make half a million to do a play.
Right.
But I'm still working. My chops are getting honed. I'm in front of my audience until so I think live theater will always be there. People will still want to see real people in movies. I think we've had CGI, so we've had AI, so to speak, in movies before, right? And I think, yes, they may be fully AI in the future, sure. But I think people still we still have independent cinema, right? People still want to see niche stories about certain communities, that are not superhero movies. That'll always be there. It'll just be another category of cinema.
Right.
That's going to exist. So people are going to want to know I'm going to see a movie with real people.
Yeah.
They're just going to want to know that and want to see that.
Now you see it thriving a lot here as well in terms of onstage live plays and theater productions. You see it even in the carnival. It's always been there, and now you're seeing it really trying to elevate again in terms of productions being put out there during the season and different things happening. So as Paul said, there is opportunity and there will be opportunity. So if this is something you're pursuing, either from being a part of the cast on stage or even in terms of some other aspect of it, writing or production itself, or even if it is you want to get into the technological side, there are so many opportunities involved in this industry, my friends. As Paul said, very importantly, get the knowledge and hone your skills. Make sure you're cutting edge and be you, because you can only be you. And people would love that and respect that. We take a short break and we come back for our final segment tonight. Do you have a business idea or looking to innovate your existing business? Get a free one-on-one, 1 hour consultation with the Big Potato Podcast team. We'll help you assess your business potential and maximize its value. Whether it's mentorship, coaching, or consulting, we've got you covered. Don't miss out. Check out our social media for details. Presented by IBOMAQ Consulting. And we're back on the Big Potato Podcast. we've taken it on stage tonight. We are actually on stage and on the big screen. And then the industry started going to smaller screens. And this is where we would like to take the discussion now a bit with our good friend, our buddy Paul Pryce, online with us tonight on the Big Potato Podcast, and talking about smaller screens. And for the purpose of this discussion, it's not to discredit the type of film on the streaming platforms. I mean, you know it. Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, just to name a few. We all stream them. We all look at series. We are all absorbed and taken up. I wouldn't get into the names of some of the popular ones. But Paul here has been a part of that movement. And I would like to know, in terms of, we spoke in the last segment about huge actors going back to Broadway, going back to live play. But the streaming platforms, they are here, and we're seeing huge actors also appearing in series and movies on these smaller screens as well. What is that transition like for an actor? What was that what was that experience like for you to be a part of, I guess, a big production house, a big distribution house, a company like Marvel?
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It's a TV series, Jessica Jones, which is great. Yeah, it's just a big set. It's just a big set, and there's like a lot of cameras, a lot of crew. The biggest thing I think for an actor is just being, how do you stay focused, concentrated in front of a lot of people, right? There's a lot of lights, there's a lot of moving parts, big camera, a lot of crew, and and a lot of and time is money, right? So it just feels like everything is rushed. You have to be super prepared. So I think, it's like everything, you get kind of used to it. So yeah, and it's acting at the end of the day, and it's like everything, it's about the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, right? So the transition is fine. Once you go from film to TV or theater, you just kind of calibrate the performance according to the audience or the camera, and hopefully you have a director that's good enough to kind of help you through that.
Right.
But ultimately you're constantly training for that in mind, training with the camera in mind, training whether your body's in space, all of that.
And that really leads me to my next question before I bring Stuart back in. Do you think that we have enough to really offer something like that in the Caribbean? Like a Netflix type repository of all of our stories, all of our content, all of our history?
Well, they have people who've tried that or are trying that or doing that rather. They have it's Caribbean Tales. They have an online sort of streaming platform. They have there's somebody out of Trinidad. I forget the name of that platform, but they also have kind of, what's the name of that boy? I forget the name of it, but they have films and stuff. I think Bazodi is on it, and
Right.
a few other films you could stream on it. Forget the name. I can't get the name right now. And there's a friend of mine out of Atlanta. She also has a platform. It's not just Caribbean, but there's a Caribbean selection as well as all over the world online. So you have people who have these platforms. The thing is with those platforms, I mean, I'm not in that business, but there's so many of them. There's so many places that have streaming services now. It's not it's like it's not a fad anymore. It's all over the place. and all of them is subscription based, right? So how many subscriptions can one actually have, right? If I have Disney and Amazon, do I need Netflix? Am I going to buy, have to see one movie? And I think what people tend to do now, like I certainly do it. I just do the free trial to see the movie that I want to see, and I unsubscribe because I don't need to have a subscription for whatever thing. So I mean, I think that's the challenge, because the reality is Caribbean people want to see high quality content and have a certain X amount of money to spend like everybody else, right? So if I could spend, I don't know how they do it in Trinidad, but up here it's like, if you spend $6 for Disney and you're getting Avengers, you're getting all kind of Marvel, you get Star Wars, you get all kind of thing. Am I going to pay $3 a month, another $3 for local content? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if that's feasible. But what I think should be happening is on TTT, on TV6, on what's the other one, CNC3, they should be showing this content on their prime time or on their schedule.
Right.
We should be, when you click on there, that's where we should be seeing Caribbean content for free. And they should be, they should be buying the rights. But again, and I think it's about training people to see ourselves, and because the quality is there. And they had Westwood Park. That was a very successful series. But again, it was like pulling teeth to get people to invest and to spend the money and the advertising. That's always the buy-in from the corporate sector is very challenging, and that's why the government ultimately has to be the driver to begin to at least to start the process, and then educating investors and advertisers to say, this actually is viable because an audience does want to see this. But yeah, I mean, it just takes time, like everything, right? You need to invest. It takes resources.
I think that's a challenge. Seeing the value in something made from your neighbor. Something made from another Trinidadian. I don't think they see that value at all. But just now you mentioned the amount of streaming platforms. The cost of these OTT, these over-the-top stream-on-demand platforms, even the cost of creating those streaming platforms has dropped so much that, yes, it has become saturated. Even the choice of streaming platform is a difficult choice now. And in fact, I just wanted to give some stats. The average American pays for 2.9, let's just say 3, streaming platforms per month. Yeah, they pay for 3. That's the top would be Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV. So right now they pay for 3. The 4th one generally is Disney Plus. And basically 44% of the people in our survey said that if their price goes up, they're just going to cut it. They don't really see much value in Disney Plus. But on average, they pay for 3.
Unless you have kids.
Unless you have kids.
Unless you have children.
Yes. So there's a lot of streaming platforms coming about. I do know someone, a local guy, he used to live in LA, and he was working on a platform down there for streaming as well. So, yes, just to choose which platform you want to look at before you scroll for half an hour to decide what movie you want to look at is challenge after challenge after challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, at least me personally, I wouldn't go into that business because it's too saturated. It's like, why, unless you really have a niche. And the thing is, while there are good films in the Caribbean, really, really good ones, there are also not so good ones, right? The quality is not so good, because we don't have all the, so I think it should be just accessible. And I think it should just be made accessible and should be promoted and people should have access to it.
Yeah.
And, the film festival in Trinidad is great. You have all these, but always the challenge with film festivals is, where do I see it if I miss it at the festival? It's hard to see the films, so it would be cool if the the Trinidad and Tobago Film TT had a platform where the films could live there and you could see them, or like there's a partnership with, TV6 and TTT that it's being screened for a year on TV.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that's just like simple things that I don't understand why things like that don't happen.
It seems simple because you're living away, my boy. It seems simple because you're living away.
I don't know. To me, certain things you just see happening, and it's like, I don't know. To me, it's very simple, and it don't take it don't take too much. It don't have to be complicated.
No, I agree.
If you want things to get done, and you have the will and the direction, the vision for it, then you just get it done. Like, I don't understand why certain things don't just happen, but people have their agenda,
Let's just say TV, the local TV stations, are a key part of the ecosystem. So if they're not getting on board, the whole thing at a bottleneck, you could say. People creating content and they're not being distributed. They'll just throw it up for free. They might throw it on Tubi, something. But I believe that
Well, it all comes down to dollars and cents. Mm-hmm. So part of the thing is, you have to talk to the people at, in TV6, for instance, is about advertising. So it's not really the content, it's really, nobody cares about the content. It's about the advertising. So if you're going to put a program on a slot, you have the people, the sales people have to sell the product to advertisers and convince them that if they purchase ads in between, that their audience will sell, or it makes sense for them to buy, And sometimes in our thinking is that, well, I rather put my money behind whatever show, Blackish, or
Bold and Beautiful,
or Bold and Beautiful, or whatever, because my audience looking at that. Whereas this independent film, I don't know whoever looking at that. I don't know if that's gonna be good bang for my buck. Do you know what I mean? And I think when a TV station buys, sometimes you could get a whole series, a TV series. That's why I don't know if it's still the case in TV sector, but we used to have these old series. Yeah. It wasn't always the latest. It was like Highlander or some kind of
still happening,
kind of weird kind of TV series.
Still happening.
That used to be played on TV6 and TV because it was cheap. It was a cheap buy. They would sell you. You go to the studio and they'll sell you the series for like $1,000 or $3,000 or a few $100s, and you could put that. It's cheap, and you could make more money because it's and people watching that Highlander, that looking good. Let me watch that.
Yeah.
But it's not innovative cinema. It's not innovative TV like HBO. That's innovative.
No.
They're not innovating. They're not creating something that's exciting. That is relevant to who we are as a people.
Correct.
But we're just it's just cheap product that we could throw on TV that we'll watch.
Correct.
Because it had nothing else to watch.
But I guess, as Stuart said, that is why, the world is going on demand right now. And then further to that trend, when the AGI steps in, Stuart, when you're able to get the content personalized to you in a few years, it's already happening. So in a few years' time, it's just going to be there. We're not even going to have to rely on these sorts of platforms anymore because we getting what we want. I want to see this movie in this way with this person.
Make a movie with dragons in Trinidad and this and that with Tom Cruise in it.
Yeah, when it's snowing on a fiery lake.
Will come up for us.
Yeah, correct is right. So we head in so many diverse and innovative directions that even some of the gatekeepers and some of the status quo, it will be broken by force. So I guess we could hold on to the Highlander and the CSI Miami for a few years more, but the transition is definitely happening. And speaking about transition, Paul, I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I think this might be my probably final question for the night. In terms of moving from on stage to now behind the camera, that transition. So we have a lot of young persons listening right now. They may be thinking about getting into the industry, but they don't know, or they're not quite sure, or maybe they may be multi-talented in terms of their skills and so on. What does that transition look like from moving from actor to director or to producer, that sort of thing? And how can someone make that transition in their own career?
I think, first off, I think the thing, if you're going to be an artist, I think it's important to have a real skill, something that could translate into money. In that, it's all well and good if you like to sing and dance and act, and that's great and that's important. That is a craft and is a skill. But I also think that it's important for someone who's coming into the business, for instance, can you edit?
Mm-hmm.
Can you edit?
Right.
Can you do sound design? Can you color correct, for instance? Are you good administratively? Could you be a stage manager? Can you do lighting? I think it's important to have those kinds of skills. Or do you have an online business? Do you have a business that you have going on that you could do remotely? Do you sell products online? Do you have a sales? I think those things are very good. Or another, like, do you teach SATs? I just think as an artist, it's also important because it takes a while for your creative business to take off, like to be a full-time actor, or full-time singer, or full-time whatever.
Right.
And I think it's prudent to have other skills that could make money. Because what's going to happen if you don't have that? You could do things like waiting tables and these kinds of things, which I don't think really add value to your ultimate career.
Right.
People might disagree with that, but I think what it does, it takes up a lot of hours. You might make a lot of money being a bartender, which is fine, but I don't think that necessarily moves you forward in your field as a cultural practitioner, as an artist, because you need to be practicing your art. You know what I mean? And you need that energy. You need to be awake, you're not just tired. Or you manage the two. If you could do your bartending and thing, and then that makes enough money so that you can, and I say that because I did all of that. I waited tables, I did bartending, I did catering, and all of those things. And those things take a lot of energy. And if I were a young person and advising someone, I'd say, all right, master editing, because there'll always be a need for an editor. You could always edit. If you know social media marketing, must do that as well. Have that as a skill that you can immediately translate into dollars that's going to support your singing, acting career. Have a real skill that could translate into, that could pay the bills.
Right.
And also it's also in your field.
Yes.
Right? As editing is part of your field. So, and I think that's very useful. I'll also say get good training. I think that's really important, that you know what you're doing. And I will also say get mentorship, whether you're working under a really great director, you're assisting a great director or a theater company or something like that. Go to a really good school with a good name. Like I went to Yale. That's good, because the next part of the business is highly networked.
Right.
It's who you know, your connections, your links. That's huge. There's a lot of nepotism in the business, and there's a reason for that. Big stars bring their children, their family, all of that, get through. And a lot of the work that I've done has been through my network from Yale.
Right.
And that is huge. So you need links. Yes. You need connections. And a big part of the business, in all business and entrepreneurship, is connections. Who could, like, I text you, right? I text you, hey, you know anybody and so and so.
Yes.
Because that's what it is.
Yes.
You need
Just today. Just today, I text me this morning.
Yeah, I text you. Yeah, it's like, I need somebody. You need somebody, and so on. So it's like I'll share this. I had a meeting with one of my former acting teachers at Yale. Now she's the dean of Juilliard and one of the artistic directors there. And we had lunch at Lincoln Center, and I was talking to her about some things that I'm doing in my teaching, and she's like, you know what, Paul, at the end of the day, it's not how good you look on paper, is your connections.
Mm-hmm.
It's who you know. People are going to put you on. You know, if they like you, you do good work and whatnot, that's going to be a big part of the strategy.
Yeah.
You know, a big part of the strategy. Another thing I would say that's, I think, very important for anybody who's thinking, oh, I want to go to New York like Paul, I want to go to LA, or I want to go to London, is your immigration status.
Right.
That's huge. You need to, we don't talk a lot about that, but that's very important. You need the right papers to progress. You need to get the green card, you know, there's an artist visa, things like that are very, very important to get in, you know, and if you don't have those things, you're going to be shut out.
Wow.
You're going to be shut out of the system, because the thing is, up here, they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with your immigration nightmares or your immigration woes or struggles, because they don't have to. They have a guy who's American or somebody who has the paperwork, the green card or an O1 or whatever to work. It's easier.
Yes.
And even an O1, there are challenges with the visa. So I think that's a real thing. That's a very real thing. And so it might be, a path would be to build your career at home in Trinidad or in the Caribbean, in the region, and build it up to such a way where they come calling you, they come looking for you, because your work is so good and you're promoting it and on social media, that the companies, MTV or whoever, come to you and they find you,
right,
and then they bring you. Like, that's what happened with Michael Sherry.
I was
for
not going to
instance.
mention him. I was not going to mention him.
Right? Michael Sherry, homegrown, studied abroad, went back home. He's teaching and doing amazing work in Trinidad, and he has representation in the States, and they saw his work, and Netflix reached back and pull him up to do the thing, because what he did is what they wanted, right? So you know, I think there's a lot of value in building your craft at home, and being a standout at home, and then going abroad, especially if you don't have the means to travel or to work abroad, because you could spend a lot of years butting your head against not having the papers and not having the right connections to get ahead. And I think that's real talk. I was just having a conversation with a guy. He's like, yeah, you don't need goals, and you just need to, just work hard. Work hard is, yes, you need to work hard, but that ain't all. Working hard is not the thing. You need to work hard. You need to have a good craft. You need to have a side job that's going to sustain you online, ideally. And then you need to be connected. You need to have the right work papers. You need to have a brand and a presence that is attractive. That is, when I say attractive, not necessarily beauty, well, that helps, but is somebody looking like, oh, you're looking like the real thing. You're looking like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Your personal brand is on
You
point.
know what I'm saying? The presentation is important. There's a lot of things goes into it. There's a lot. It's very complicated.
Yes.
It's a lot.
Sometimes it's just luck.
And then
Sometimes it's just luck.
And thank you for saying that. That's a huge component. A huge part of it is just luck. You do all of that, and then a big part of it is just lucky.
Yeah.
And I was one never to believe in luck and say, oh, you have to work hard, and you know, we're raised on those values back home, right?
You're creating your luck.
Raised on those values of working hard, go to school, do your job, get good grades, get your passes, get a good job, right? We are raised on those kind of wholesome values. But the reality of it, guys, a lot of it is luck.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of it is luck. You're the right person at the right time for what they needed.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, part of luck is Michael Sherry. He was he's qualified, works hard, but we all know Michael Sherry's are great, but it was the right project, needed the right kind of actor, and then he was the right guy.
Right, so he created his luck. He prepared himself for the moment.
Yeah. You prepare, you prepare and you're there, you're ready, but then there's the right opportunity, the right people, the right time,
everything.
as all these things have to line up, and that is the luck.
And that is the thing,
and then it strikes you, because you can be prepared, do all that, and you ain't getting nothing. That has happened too.
Well,
that has happened plenty.
I think the luck might.
And I think that needs to be said. You could do all the work and put all the investment, and then it may not turn out the way you want it to turn out.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
I think.
And you did everything you could, and there's honor in that. You followed your dream, you put in the work, and it just didn't pan out. And there are people who just do half the work, and they just get the right opportunity because they're the right person and the right thing. Is it sustained? Maybe not. Maybe it's not sustainable because they don't have the craft, right, to continue that at that high level. So they just one-hit wonders or whatnot.
Yeah.
But luck is a real thing.
Well, they may have been bartending at the right bar and met the right person.
Yes, that happens. That happens. But likely, like you said, they have the craft. You've been doing at it. So then, when the audition comes, you're ready to be there. And then, if you're ready, then the luck strikes too.
But the right energy out there, man.
Yeah.
Well, some of the research also, they were indicating that AI actually taking casting jobs as well. So they will just look at the AI will look at your headshot, understand your resume, understand the requirements of the role, and the AI will do the casting. So some of that luck may not be an option again, It's not as though someone could just bounce you up and say, well, I'm looking for this job. They're looking to see what the AI telling them to, who the AI tell them to hire.
So you're saying instead of a casting director, AI is gonna choose who should come in for the audition or who's right for the part?
For the screening.
Oh, I haven't read that part yet. I haven't read
a lot of the trends are very scary. Very, very scary.
Yeah.
So, and even the AI with the editing, you said, you could pick up editing, but they said most of the jobs in post-production will be taken up by AI pretty soon. Even the editing, the lighting, all those things I mentioned. So it's a volatile, it's a rapidly changing landscape in this film industry.
It's a VUCA world, my friend, a VUCA world.
Yep. I mean, pretty soon we'll be able to make our movies at home.
But that is it.
And the computer is like, oh, I want to see this, I'll make my own movie.
That is it. It gives a lot of opportunities for the independent filmmaker. I want to make a movie about my book. Boom. I can get that done. I don't need to hire a whole production team, get financiers and all these different things. Even the marketing is going to be done by the AI. So I will close off the episode with a movie called The Deliverer. You ever heard about that movie? It's a pretty dope short. Well, my question to you is, what was your rollout strategy for that movie? How did you get it from idea to where it is currently? And where do you plan to take it?
Well, that was a proof of concept. And I'd seen this guy, Damien Chazelle, who did La La Land and what's the movie with the drums? I forget that one. But he did a proof of concept. I saw an interview with him. I was like, what is that? And then I saw it was like you just do a little short film about the characters, the main conflict, and the story of the feature. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And I came to Trinidad and I'd written a screenplay. And I went to Trinidad and just shot it with a friend. And we cast my friends down in Trinidad. Michael is in it, actually. And we shot this proof of concept short. And then the idea was to use that as a way to raise money and to get it into film festivals and whatnot to gain some traction. And that was the idea. And it was successful doing that on some level. But then, it always comes down to finding the right partners. And that's always the challenge. And always the big sticking point with film, finding the right partners and the financing. So it's taken a while to find, we've had partners on board and then they fall away for various reasons. So I've been really driving that forward in terms of keeping that ball rolling. So the idea is to shoot next year, shoot it next year. And we have, we're in partnership with, in a couple financing sources out of Trinidad. So we're fingers crossed to see how that happens. But it will be a combination of grant money, a combination of an investor, some investor money, and some crowdfunding monies to do it as well. And as well, it's a whole different sort of strategy I've come up with by using community partners, like using the communities that we're filming at to be our vendors. So the money that we raise is going back into communities. So they'll be our vendors for security, transport, that kind of thing. So catering, so that the money we're investing or people entrust us with goes back into the communities that we're filming in. So it's not just bringing people from Port of Spain to come down to shoot, because we'll be shooting in locations like Moruga, Guayari, very kind of far, remote areas. And we want our work to be sustainable in those areas. So so the proof of concept was one idea to kind of build the idea. And I think it's been around for a while now, a few years, that people are, oh yeah, I've seen that film, I heard about it, I know about it. So there is a sort of a community that's been built around the film, or have seen the film at a festival, heard about it, seen stuff online. But I think once we have our major funding in, and we have some exciting things kind of brewing around it, we'll make our feature film, and it'll be my first feature that I'll be directing and acting in and whatnot. So it's a pretty big deal.
Nice.
Fantastic.
But what do you look for in a partner?
Wow. What do I look for in a partner? Well, I've part of the journey is, the obstacles are, you have to find people that you could align with. And I think what I've learned is that the people you start a journey with are not necessarily the people that you end the journey with. And I've also learned to not be afraid to hire slow, fire fast. Because sometimes you think someone is the right fit, but they turn out not to be the right fit for various reasons. And what I've also learned is you want to find people who you have a shared values with, who you aesthetically and creatively, there's consistency, right? You have a shared aesthetic, and that people who really buy into your vision, and buy into the vision, because it's independent, and you need community to make things work, and people, it's hard to find that. So if you find creative partnerships, like you two are working together, you have something, and that is worth so much, that you could build with each other and you could support each other. And even though there are challenges, people don't abandon the project. People see it through till the end. And that is rare, to find people who understand that this is something that is bigger than just you. It's something that's for a wider nation, or a wider cause. So it's finding a right team is not easy. It's not easy, and I think you cycle through a lot of people until you find the people that are the right people at the right time. And people, there are various reasons why people can't continue. It might be they want to, but they have other commitments and things happen. But I think finding people who you have shared values, people who you want to spend long hours with, people who are not in it just for the money, people who have who also have a shared vision, and you can trust. Trust is big, and I think if you find that, you want to hold on to those values, people who have shared values. I think it's important for good creative work and output.
Brilliant. Really well said. I agree with your answer.
I mean,
Nice.
so
I'm
many,
glad.
so many great things happening on your end, Paul. So many great insights you shared with our audience tonight as well.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I would really, really, really want to thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Thanks, Paul.
And I mean, we had a very vast discussion in terms of the performing arts and opportunities, and even what you can do to get involved and to put yourself on a trajectory to become successful. Any closing remarks, Stuart?
I just want to wish Paul continued success in all of his ambitions, all of his goals, all of his dreams. I know they will come to pass. Maybe not every single one, but the ones that key, they will come to pass. Because I know Paul, like 30, oh gosh, I shouldn't say that. Paul, I'm about 30 years. But
Yeah, about that. A
I
long
know Paul
time.
30 years now, so I know the kind of guy he is. Disciplined, hardworking, driven. So I don't really expect anything less for him. So I just want to congratulate you,
Yes.
Paul. As we say in Trinidad now, love in the house. And whenever you're ready to get crossed up on the basketball court again, you know where to check, man.
I know it had to come up.
All right, guys. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Thank
brother.
you so much as well. And that was a very, very dynamic discussion with a great human being, Paul Pryce, right here on the Big Potato Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and most importantly, that you took some value from it. Until next time, be your best self.